This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
What is the situation like in the southern capital after it was subjected to violent and intense Israeli airstrikes? The answer is in this report by Norma Al-Hajja, who toured the city of Sidon.
It used to be called the Fatima Zahra complex. Today, it is a pile of steel and rocks as a result of 2 land-air vacuum bombs, which collapsed all 4 stories of the building in a matter of seconds. 4 citizens sustained light to critical wounds. The complex included a religious school, a mosque, a medical clinic, as well as a public library and the headquarters of the Scholars Association of Jabal al-Amal. The bombing of the complex caused massive material damage to the residential buildings surrounding it, including a school whose classrooms were completely destroyed.
The children came to me and started crying. They were saying, "Where can we go? We can't stay inside." I don't know how I survived this strike.
خفت كتير وصرت أبكي وحسيت إنه يعني
I was very scared. I started crying. I felt afraid. I felt a strong hit. I thought they hit our home and that we were going to die. I was very scared, so I went to my mom to hide.
Haj Sobi Hussein, who was 82 years old, lived through 3 wars. He and his wife were both wounded.
The rocks fell on me. I lost consciousness. They came and carried me and my wife to the hospital. My wife remained in the hospital because they had to bandage her wounded head. Her shoulder is broken in 2 places from the cement rocks that fell on us.
After touring the streets and suburbs of Sidon, it became apparent material damages far exceeded what we have seen at the Fatima Zahra complex. The destruction reached the Saleh complex, which includes a bank, and the Hassan loan, which pays for Iranian imported products, as well as 3 bridges, the Darbasim, the Ghazia, and the Raji bridges. Also damaged were 5 gas stations. Commercial stores also took their share of the Israeli bombings.
What did the Lebanese do to them? They always blame us. We love the whole world. Our religion is for God, and the country is for all the people.
The mayor of Sidon, Abdurrahman al-Bizri, said $7 million worth of damages were incurred. He discussed a plan to reconstruct the bridges that were destroyed if the security situation improves.
Our plan is clear. We began working on it on the first day of the aggression. We looked at how to make the bridges that were destroyed functional again. We have the technical abilities and the machineries to make these bridges which were hit functional, at least for a temporary period of time, until the state can figure out how to fully reconstruct them.
There are 2 detours that link between the south of Beirut and the north. Al-Bizri revealed 2 roads, the Majgar-Jizin Road or Alman Road. However, it takes 2.5 hours instead of just 1 hour. With no apparent political or security exit from this war, the residents of Sidon remain cautious, fearing that some missiles or shrapnel may hit them despite the momentary calm that it currently enjoys.
A poll published in the Idiot Achronot newspaper today reveals that 82% of all Israelis and 92% of Israel's Jewish population feels that the operation against Hezbollah in Lebanon is justified. A handful of demonstrators took to the streets of Haifa today to encourage the government to stay its course.
For the Israeli army and the Israeli government We don't support war, but we understand that we don't have choice, because if the world wants to live peace and quietly, we need that all the terror organization will vanish. So we support the Israeli army and the Israeli people, and we hope it will end soon.
I want to say to the Lebanese people, for it wasn't for the Hezbollah, we will already have peace with them, and Lebanon would be the most prosperous state in the entire Middle East, entire Arab countries in the Middle East.
And now we bring you what several Jerusalem residents had to say about the current conflict.
That they should do whatever they have to do so that we could finish it the best that we can and the quickest that we can and with the least fatalities.
It's not something that we would have liked to do, but I don't really think we have a choice at the moment. We haven't started this war. We were forced to get involved, and to tell you the truth, I don't really know what do they want from us. And right now we're fighting for our existence in our country, nothing else.
Hezbollah fired a wave of highly advanced rockets known as Khaybar, which are being used for the first time towards Afula, while Israel began withdrawing its troops from Maroun al-Ras after violent clashes. Meanwhile, more Israeli troops were deployed south of the Blue Line. Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri expressed his country's readiness for an immediate exchange of Lebanese prisoners for the 2 kidnapped Israeli soldiers after a ceasefire has been realized.
صارت الغارات الإسرائيلية عادية في الذاكرة اليومية للبنانيين.
Israeli air raids have become an ordinary sight for the Lebanese, as have civilian victims targeted by Israeli planes on the road. But all eyes are now on the Bent Jabal Maroun al-Ras area, where open clashes were taking place, ending in an Israeli retreat to the Blue Line. This was interpreted as a full pullout by the Golan unit, which sustained strong hits, though others see it as a preparation for renewed attack to compensate for what has been occurring in the last few days. The air raids throughout different areas in Lebanon, especially in al-Baqa, may explain what is really happening in Bent Jabal. This supports the view that the war will require additional time as the confrontation continues to change the situation on the ground, which is what Israel has been unable to do thus far, despite the extensive destruction it caused in the southern area that looks like it was recently hit by an earthquake. This confrontation also explains the Khaybar-1 rockets, fired recently by the resistance at Afula in Haifa, in the heart of occupied Palestine.
المقاومة اليوم بمجموعة جديدة من الصواريخ تدعى خيبر 1 إلى العفولة جنوب حيفا في العمق الفلسطيني المحتل.
قربنا نوصل إلى الضفة الدبلوماسية من الأزمة.
We are close to coming to a diplomatic solution to the conflict. Step by step, we are leaving the military ground and heading toward a diplomatic position. I am optimistic about reaching a final solution to the conflict in Lebanon. We are hoping for an end to all military operations, an immediate ceasefire, and a comprehensive solution.
أن نصل إلى وقف إطلاق النار فوراً وأيضاً إلى إيجاد الحلول النهائية الشاملة. بالواقع صار في تغيير كبير حصل باجتماع روما.
There was a big change after the Rome conference. During the meetings, we were able to present Lebanon's point of view and to stress to the international community the importance of a ceasefire. There was a positive response to Lebanon's position. It is true there was no announcement of a ceasefire, but it is becoming a possibility. As we can see, political steps were initiated. The Security Council will be meeting next week to look into this issue.
In less than 24 hours, signs in Beirut were pointing to an adoption by the Lebanese parliament of Prime Minister Fouad Signora's Rome Conference proposal. Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri, who speaks on behalf of Hezbollah, announced that Lebanon is ready for an immediate prisoner exchange after a ceasefire. He specified that the exchange would involve Lebanese prisoners and the 2 kidnapped Israeli soldiers only. Hezbollah, for its part, showed signs of a possibility for talks after a ceasefire is achieved. The prisoners have been exchanged and Israeli troops have been pulled out from the Shabah farms. This is seen as the beginning of a prospect for open dialogue that will gradually accompany military operations, especially after regional and international capitals have expressed their dissatisfaction with the continuous battles in Lebanon with no attempt to find a solution leading to a ceasefire. The European Troika group has been unable to reach an agreement for a ceasefire based on humanitarian reasons. Similar attempts made in Beirut and elsewhere have also failed. It appears that the atmosphere that some hope to realize on the ground as a result of the military confrontations has not come to fruition. Rafiq Nasrallah, Abu Dhabi Channel, Beirut.
Rafiq Nasrallah, Qanat Abu Dhabi, Beirut.
In
the Palestinian refugee camp of Ain al-Hilwa in Lebanon, Al Jazeera camera has captured what many Lebanese consider an optimistic aspect of the ongoing war. Palestinian refugees welcomed approximately 750 displaced Lebanese who were forced to leave areas and villages in the south due to the Israeli bombardment. Both the guests and the hosts have provided an image of solidarity that may erase some of the images of suspicion burdening the relationships between the two.
This is Ain al-Hilwa refugee camp, but today it has a different story. This refugee camp, where people suffer from difficult living and economic conditions, refused to distance itself from the suffering of the southern Lebanese caused by the aggression on Lebanon.
We formed committees, some for counting people, others for distribution, and the rest for providing medical care. We are a health committee, part of several institutions that help the forcefully migrated people from areas of Tyre.
3 schools, including 2 that belong to UNRWA, were transformed to shelters for 1,700 displaced Lebanese from many southern villages. This may seem unusual for some who are accustomed to hearing only security-related news about Ain al-Hilwa refugee camp. However, the fears of some displaced Lebanese were quickly replaced by feelings of kinship. The Palestinian hosts are refugees and know the bitterness of forced migration.
We were subjected to forced migration and deprivation.
We were very surprised by their hospitality. We did not expect it. The women who came with me were afraid of being assaulted or that the Palestinians might be carrying weapons.
The residents of this refugee camp share the little basic supplies they have. Popular committees, associations, and organizations besides UNRWA are working to provide what is needed. These efforts are viewed by some as a gesture that may break obstacles between some of the people from both sides. Hopefully, this will contribute in easing the suffering of the Palestinian refugees in Lebanon. Without a doubt, the displaced Lebanese are living a tragedy. The difference here is that they have found displaced people like themselves not a dangerous security threat, as some would like to describe them.
الجزيرة من مخيم عين الحلوة جنوب لبنان.
A fierce battle took place near Maron Aras between the Islamic resistance and the Israeli occupation army, which retreated to the border area between the village and the Avavim settlement. News reports indicate that 33 Israeli soldiers have been killed and 70 others were wounded in the battle at Bint Jbeil. The Islamic resistance has launched missiles on the settlements of the occupation, which acknowledge that Hezbollah has the capabilities to continue the war for a long period of time at the same level of fighting.
After the grave losses that the occupation sustained in the Bint Jbeil battle, it has begun to acknowledge that a large number of its soldiers have been killed. An army spokesman announced that an Israeli officer was killed in the area. Many Israeli military vehicles retreated to the border area between the Avavim settlement and the Lebanese Maron Ras village. The Israeli media revealed that 33 soldiers have been killed and 70 others were wounded in the fierce battle between the occupation army and the Islamic resistance in Bint Jubail, accusing the military commanders of recklessness that have caused blunders on the ground. The catastrophic result of Bint Jubail and Maroun al-Ras battles continue to have a strong impact on the Israeli occupation, both politically and militarily. The confrontations that lasted for hours caused the well-known army units such as Golani, Gifati, and the paratroopers to fall into hell, according to the testimony of one of the surviving soldiers. Formidable tanks such as the Merkava, the Simon III, and IV also were destroyed. They were considered the pride of the Israeli army. One of the occupation officers said that during the battle, the tanks were transformed into fire traps that were destroyed as soon as they advanced, killing all the people inside. The destroyed tanks would then become a burden since reinforcements must be deployed to save them. This explains why Israel's ambitious plans were dropped, which was evident when Israel retracted its claims that it had taken control of Bint Jubail. This also explains how Israel now plans to occupy only 1 square kilometer of Lebanese territory instead of the original plan of occupying 20 square kilometers, though they have not occupied anything yet. Signs of a crisis began to appear within the government and the army leadership. This was expressed by the head of the Mossad intelligence service, Meir Gan, who said that Hezbollah has the ability to continue fighting for a long period of time at the same level it is fighting now. The occupation's dilemma is made worse by the missiles that are falling on its settlements for the third week, forcing it to elevate the state of alert to the highest level, especially after the resistance threatened to target areas beyond Haifa. In addition to the 1.5 million settlers who are living in underground shelters, the latest numbers indicate that Israeli economy has sustained losses of up to $500 million a day. Many institutions have stopped paying the salaries of employees who live in shelters. To add insult to injury, the occupation media reported that a wave of assaults and robberies has spread in northern residential areas. This threatens to turn it into an imminent security and social crisis.
Hezbollah fired scores of rockets into Israel Friday, including at least one that the Lebanese movement said was a new long-range missile wounding at least 6 people. This comes as the Zionist regime of Israel battered Lebanon on Friday, killing 13 people. Warplanes repeatedly bombed hill villages near the southern port of Tyre, and hundreds of artillery rounds crashed across the border from the occupied Palestine, killing 10 people, including a Jordanian.
3 people died in airstrikes in the eastern Bekaa Valley. Fighting also erupted near the southern town of Ben Jabil and the nearby border village of Maroun al-Ras when Hezbollah fighters attacked Israeli positions in the area. Heavy fighting and the destruction of roads in the south have created terrifying conditions for civilians.
The condition in our country is very bad, harsh. There is no water, no food, no mattress to sleep on it.
Aid workers, meanwhile, said it was impossible to get medical supplies and food safely to isolated villages due to Israeli bombing.
We're facing an extremely difficult humanitarian situation in terms of access for the south of Lebanon today. There's a lot of talk of humanitarian corridors, but actually this only applies to very few limited convoys traveling mainly from Beirut to some southern areas, the main towns.
In another development, an Israeli shell crashed near an aid convoy in South Lebanon, wounding at least 3 people. The convoy, organized by Lebanese civil defense workers, was returning from the village of Ramish to the port city of Tyre after evacuating dozens of civilians caught up in the 17-day-old war between Israel and Hezbollah. In response, dozens of rockets fired by Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon hit towns across north of the occupied Palestine on Friday, wounding at least 6 people. A local ambulance station was hit by one rocket that landed in the town of Saf, causing no injuries. 6 other towns, including Khirat Shamuna, Naharia, Rashpina, and Kermeil, were also hit. Around 60 rockets were fired in all.
With the Zionist regime of Israel's mounting aggression against Lebanon and Palestine, different cities across the world are still witnessing rallies in protest to those crimes. Thousands of people in Italy, Russia, Malaysia and India were among those that staged demonstrations today to deplore the crimes committed by the Israeli regime. The Iranian capital, Tehran, too, witnessed today a wave of worshippers who were out in force after Friday prayers to denounce Israeli aggression in the Middle East, which is escalating by the mounting support of the West. A senior EU delegation has thrown its support behind Prime Minister Fouad Siniora plan to resolve the conflict between Lebanon and Israel, exchange of prisoners and pacification of their borders. Finnish Foreign Minister Erik Tuomio, representing the EU presidency, told reporters in Beirut the European Union was committed to work for an immediate cessation of all hostilities and for a lasting ceasefire.
The European Union wants an immediate end to the hostilities, and we are willing to work with all parties and the international community immediately towards this end.
And Danish Foreign Minister Benita Ferrara-Waldner said their visit to Beirut was a show of solidarity with the suffering of the Lebanese people and to help on the political and humanitarian fronts.
We are pleased to see that the Lebanese government now reached yesterday an important consensus in this very difficult situation by backing Prime Minister Siniora's plan that he has presented in Rome, because this is a very important plan and this could pave the way for Lebanon to restore its state sovereignty.
Amnesty International has said countries around the world should establish an arms embargo on Israel following reports the U.S. used a British airport as a staging post for bombs destined for Israel.
The London-based human rights group has said direct targeting of civilians and civilian infrastructure, along with launching indiscriminate and disproportionate attacks, amount to war crimes. The group has also added governments supplying Israel with arms and military equipment are fueling their capacity to commit war crimes. Recent reports have alleged 2 Airbus A310 cargo planes filled with laser-guided missiles stopped at a British airport early this week for refueling and for the crew to rest en route to Israel. The human rights group also called on Britain to suspend the sale or transfer of all military equipment to Israel, arguing it is ridiculous to talk about providing humanitarian aid on the one hand and to provide arms on the other.
استشهد مساء اليوم المواطن أحمد أبو غزالة البالغ من العمر 40.
This evening, a citizen, Ahmed Abu Ghazala, 40 years old, from the Ansar village, was martyred after sustaining severe injuries yesterday evening from an Israeli mortar shell attack on civilian homes. Early this morning, a child, Anis Zombulat, 12 years old, from Jabalia, was martyred in front of his home by gunfire from an Israeli spy plane. A young man was also martyred, Muhammad Hamdi Abu Qaddam, 17 years old, from the Al-Askar al-Qadim refugee camp in the Nablus district. He was martyred from wounds sustained from an Israeli aggression on the city of Nablus last Friday. The number of martyrs who died during the occupation army's destruction of the Muqata'a headquarters has risen to 7. After the Israeli occupation forces withdrew from eastern Gaza, an ambulance unit found the body of the martyr Muhammad Abu Sakran in one of the agricultural areas. With this, the number of the martyrs in Gaza Strip since Tuesday has increased to 32. Eyewitnesses said that Israeli military machinery continued to be amassed on the eastern border of the Gaza Strip, firing automatic weapons and mortar shells in an intense manner towards residential neighborhoods and agricultural lands. The occupation forces caused wide-scale destruction in the Tufah and Shuja'iyya neighborhoods east of Gaza City.
The Israeli military operation has ended. The tanks, which caused devastation and destruction in the Shuja'iyya and Tufahad areas east of Gaza City and Jabalia village, withdrew after more than 30 martyrs were killed and more than 100 people wounded, including some women, children, and the elderly. The images of destruction were apparent in this area, whose features have been changed by the Israeli aggression. Homes were demolished to the ground, while others were partially destroyed after occupation soldiers transformed them into military barracks, leaving behind the crimes they committed under the pretext of freeing the captured Israeli soldier.
The Zionist peace means invasions and destruction. The infrastructure is destroyed. They did not spare the people, the lands, the trees, the birds, or the animals. They did not even spare our clothes. They even ruined the children's clothes. I don't know what these children's clothes did to them. Even the picture frames, they broke the framed Quranic text for revenge.
Every house has been completely destroyed. They did not leave anything standing. There is money and jewelry inside the house. It's all gone. Nothing remains.
The children are looking for the remains of their belongings under the rubble of their destroyed homes. They have witnessed death and destruction and were horrified by the air and land raids, which have no mercy for children. They tell stories of horror that did not spare the adults. Even after the Israeli army and bulldozers destroyed people's homes and lands, they still have strong resolve and are very attached to them.
The bulldozer came and bulldozed the land and homes.
The Jews came 2 days ago and bulldozed all the orchards and our home, as you can see. They bulldozed olive and fig trees. What did we do wrong? If this shows anything, it shows the hostility of the Jews. It shows that they are deviant and that the Israeli army is deviant. All this is done under the cover of America.
The days of 1948 are gone. We're in 2006. We will not leave like we did in 1948. If they want, let them destroy our homes. On top of our heads, let them bury us. We will stay steadfast, and we will come from under the ground. Let them destroy. We will rebuild. Let them kill. We will bring more children.
This determination did not stop Israeli planes from continuing to raid citizens' homes in Shuja'iyya neighborhood, the Badawiya village in the north, and Khan Yunis in the south of Gaza. The Israeli brutality did not even spare cemeteries, mosques, and chicken farms. Large areas of land that were full of olive trees, which symbolizes peace, and orange trees were devastated. The Israeli bulldozers also did not spare the infrastructure.
The tanks and planes were recklessly shelling us from all directions. The shells hit everything in this area. They did not spare the trees, the stones, the people, or even animals.
They claim that they want peace, but these destroyed trees and lands tell the truth. This shows that they do not want peace.
Destruction and sabotage has reached everything here, just like all the Israeli aggression in other areas in Gaza. The brutal aggression did not stop. Fear and anxiety among children did not stop. People believe that the international community must intervene in a serious way to stop the Israeli plan of aggression in the Palestinian lands. From Al Tufaha area, eastern Gaza, Adel Zanoun, Palestine Television.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. Please visit linktv.org/Mosaic for more information about these broadcasters or to view previous Mosaic programs, obtain program transcripts, or receive the weekly Mosaic Intelligence Report. Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Firedoll Foundation, the Otto Haas Charitable Trust, and by committed Link TV viewers like you. If you value this program, please send your tax-deductible contribution to Link TV, either through the website or the mailing address listed on your screen. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.